Hello again, everyone. I'm chopping up these videos so that you can digest them in the tiny increments that your attention span demands. Now, I want to give you the spiel that I usually do in person for every single lab section, and I'm going to do it once over video so everybody can kind of watch it before they show up. I kind of want to tell you how Bio 315 works because it's different than your typical bio lab. The lab is run in an open lab format. So what does that mean? It's intended that you will work with Drosophila. So you're going to come into lab and you'll have 3 vials of Drosophila in front of you. And we'll have another video that talks about how to deal with that whole situation. But what I need to get through to you in this lab is that biology, especially if you're working with living organisms, doesn't conform to a 3 hours every other or every week schedule. The organisms will do what they decide to do, and typically when you're doing science, you have to adapt your schedule to account for the biological variation that we are training to study as a profession, for example. So the Drosophila, I guess the punchline is the Drosophila will mate when they are good and ready to do so, and you will find you have to come into lab at times that don't conform to your Tuesdays at 9:30 kind of schedule. So here's what we've done. The lab is staffed for 40 hours a week, and that schedule is posted on the lab door, and it's posted on BB Learn. I think we put it in the syllabus and that kind of thing. Okay? And there's a TA in there. There's a different TA depending on the schedule, but there's a TA in there 40 hours a week. Okay? And you and your lab partner, which we'll get to in a second, come and go as your experiments dictate. This doesn't mean you will put more time into this lab than you normally would with 3 hours per week scheduled in a chunk. Okay? It just means it'll be different, and it's a closer approximation to how actual science works. Okay? And the idea is you guys are going to work ideally in partners. So the first thing I need you to know is lab sections after this coming week, this first week, don't mean a lot. They are where we record your grades. So your grades are still assigned to a lab section. But you can go see whatever TA works best for you. You can go into the lab at whatever time works best for you. And you can get help writing and all of that kind of stuff on a time frame that works best for you. So the TAs don't have, I mean, they have scheduled lab time, but they don't have office hours, right? So the idea is you're going to work with partners, and those partners don't have to be in your scheduled lab section. Now, this is good news for some people because you got a friend in your dorm floor or your fraternity or your sorority or something like that, and you're like, wow, you're in Thursday noon and I'm at Tuesday at 9:30. This is awesome. We can work together. That's awesome. We just need you to do a couple things. We need you to make sure you over communicate with your TAs when you turn in your materials so that both of you get the credit for your work. Okay? So let's talk about finding partners. So one method of finding partners is already know somebody who's in another section or in your same section. You're already partnered up. You're ready to go. This means you can go in, get some Drosophila. Whenever the lab is staffed, you can get started. Off you go. Okay? If you don't know anybody and you want to do that awkward dance that we usually do at the beginning of the semester in lab classes where you look to the person sitting next to you and you go, you want to work together? And they're like, okay. And then you do. And you make some of your best friends ever in your college career sometimes when you do that. And then also sometimes it works out terribly, terribly badly. But anyway, that's part of the fun. Okay? So if you don't already have a lab partner, you're going to come to your regularly scheduled lab section this week, and that is the time when we will partner everybody up. And then if you still don't have a lab partner, let us know and we'll figure something out. A couple of commonly asked questions. One, can I work by myself? Yes, on a limited basis. We have enough flies and supplies, you can work by yourself. 2, can we work in groups of 3? That's a pain in the butt, and no, generally, I don't like it when you do that. But in rare occasions where somebody can't find a partner, blah, 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 yeah, you can work in groups of 3 if you get the TA's permission. Okay? So, the lab is an open lab. You're going to come and go as your experiments dictate. You're going to work with a partner, and you're going to identify that partner. You're all grown-ups, right? So, okay. The philosophy of this lab is we're giving you a bunch of hypotheses for Drosophila, and we'll talk about video games in a separate video. But the basic idea is this. In a normal semester, you would walk in, you would sit down next to somebody you don't know. In front of the both of you, there would be 3 vials of Drosophila and a variety of pieces of equipment, a microscope, some petri dishes and other kinds of things, and you're in a lab surrounded by fume hoods and other things. And in front of you, you have the stuff from BB Learn, and it's just the syllabus and then how to operate in the class. At the end of the class, at the end of the semester, you will be graded out of 1,000 points. And you earn points in this class by testing hypotheses. The sum of the hypotheses that you can test are listed on a document I put on BB Learn. That's by no means restricted. If you want to do other experiments, you just write a proposal and you send it to me and you say, I want to do this experiment, and this is how many points I think it should be worth if I pull it off. And I read it and I correct your grammar because it's invariably terrible, terrible grammar. And we talk about it if it needs to be discussed, and if it's feasible, you can go ahead and do that experiment. Anyway, you do experiments, you turn in reports. The format for those reports is on BB Learn. Those reports are graded. And at the end of the semester, if you have 900 points out of 1,000, you get an A. If you have 800 points out of 1,000, you get a B. If you have less than that, I'd look at you like, what were you even doing? You should have come to me for help. What happened? There's no reason you can't work yourself to an A in this lab. Okay, it's actually really easy for students to just work hard and finish this lab in a month. Actually, there's a bunch of experiments you can do and get those done, and you get your A and you're done. Once you get an A and you're done. I have had students, for some reason, at the end of the semester, they end up with 2,482 points out of 1,000. And I pat them on the head and I say, good job getting an A, and let's have a little chat about time management, shall we? Because there's no super A. You can't bank A's. Craig won't let you transfer some of those points to Biology 310, or you can't use them in anthropology or whatever else you guys are taking. Okay? You get 900 points, you're done. Got it? Okay, so hypothesis testing using Drosophila usually is the bulk of the work in Biology 315. We ask you to turn 2 experiments in early, in the 3rd week of September. Look at the syllabus for that. And we do that because we want to kick you into getting started. Okay? I don't want you to procrastinate. The 2 experiments that we ask you to do in September are very straightforward, and they get you started learning about the flies. Okay? You learn how to sex flies, you learn how to do simple transmission genetic experiments and that kind of thing. This lab is really about the process of hypothesis testing and understanding transmission genetics. Okay? And so they're intended to be small experiments, and we intend for you to do an experiment, write it up, get feedback, do the next experiment better, write it up, get feedback. Hypothesis, prediction, data, conclusion, repeat, again and again and again. Okay? It stresses observation skills, which are undertrained in my opinion, so you're going to look at these flies and try to figure out what's different. Okay? And I really like to stress concise writing skills. We've set this lab up and the lab format so that it's one page is all we want for most experiments. You can go to 2 pages if it's a big experiment. But 1 page. What I don't want you to do is pad out the introduction. The introduction should be very simple because it's a very simple experiment. I was handed 3 vials of flies and I had to observe them and figure out how they were different. That's the introduction for that first experiment. Okay? Same thing with the methods. I want to be able to repeat what you did, but don't pad it. The key is concise writing. Okay? And the key is process. So if you do an experiment and your data give you the wrong answer, you know darn well that white eyes are, Craig taught you, white-eyed mutant in Drosophila is a recessive mutation. You do your experiment, and you do your chi-square test, and it's like, boy, I don't get, my data say that this white-eyed phenotype is dominant. Uh-oh. Don't cook the results. Write it up and say, my data say it's dominant. The textbook, however, says that this should be recessive. I suspect I may have made a mistake in my methods right here, and if I were to repeat the experiment, I would change it in this way, and I would do it again to really make sure. Okay? That you can get 100% with that approach. It is about the process of hypothesis testing and rigidly and objectively interpreting your results. Okay? It's not about following a cookbook recipe like pipette this clear liquid into that tube and then pipette it into that other tube and then you did it, check mark, whatever. No, we're not doing that. And now we get to the best part. Okay, so through the Drosophila stuff, when you get into lab, if you're watching this before you go in, this is going to be fun. You're really going to love this. You're going to sit down. We're going to hand you the Drosophila, and everybody's like, "Where's the lab manual?" There isn't one. We will give you exactly no instruction how to test these hypotheses. None. Okay? You're in your 3rd year of a science program if you're taking this course. By now, you should have figured out how to find the information you need to do these experiments. And that's what we expect you to do. So I give you some Drosophila, tell me how they're different, and then test some hypotheses about whether these are true breeding strains, or whether these mutations are dominant or recessive, or whether they are sex-linked, or whether they complement one another, or whichever ones you choose to do. Figure it out on your own. You can do this. I know you can do it because I've got a track record of 4 years worth of students doing exactly that. Look it up, Google it. Yes, you're allowed to use your phone to Google things. Why would that be? Why would I make a rule that says, no, you may not Google it? But maybe I have stock in Bing or something. I don't know. But anyway, look it up, figure it out, make mistakes, fail and try again. That's actually how you learn how to do this stuff. Okay? We're not going to punish you for failing as long as you document it properly and follow the process and follow the scientific method. Figure it out. I like to imagine it this way. This is kind of goofy, but I did warn you in the previous video I was a huge nerd. Okay? I like to imagine it this way. What if I were the president, which is impossible because I'm Canadian, but what if I were the Prime Minister of Canada and I successfully sent people to Mars and they brought back organisms? They brought back actual living organisms. And I took them and I handed them to you and I said, you're a biology major. What are these? Figure it out. There's no textbook. Right? You got to figure it out. You got to think, what do I need to know? Okay? It's the same kind of thing. Here's some Drosophila. Test some hypotheses about these mutants that we found. Figure it out. I'm 100% confident you can do this. Now, we are here to help you. We're not here to hold your hand. And we're not here to spoon feed you recipes that you blindly follow and learn nothing. That's stupid. Okay? So, we want you to try and fail and screw it up and try again and then ask and say, boy, this isn't working the way I thought it would, Mr. or Miss TA or whatever, right? Or you come see me, this isn't working. And we will say, well, what have you tried? And then you'll go through it and we'll be like, well, have you thought about this or have you looked here? We're not going to abandon you, but you will be surprised how much you can figure out on your own and do on your own. Okay? So try that first. That's generally the philosophy of the lab. And that's generally what we do with the Drosophila stuff. I'm going to make a different video and post that soon about how to do the video game, the online version of things. Focuses on different things, but it's still about process. It's about hypothesis testing. Okay? So if you need a partner, go to your lab section, find a partner, email your TAs, whatever you got to do. It's open lab. We do want you to go to your first lab section, though, especially if you don't have a partner, just to get oriented, get some flies, figure out what's going on, what's what. You'd be surprised how much information is actually just sitting in the lab. There's stuff in there. Just look around. You'll figure it out. It'll be good. Okay, so next up, I don't know if you're watching these in order, but I'm going to make a video on what to expect on the first day, because it's a bit, we had to do some things with COVID and stuff to make everybody safe. So I'm going to record that one next. This is fun. YouTube. Yay. Anyway, bye.